Al Raby is a real estate broker and the owner of the Coldwell Banker Advantage brokerage here in the city of Welland. With 19 years of experience in the real estate business and ranking in the top 3% internationally within Coldwell Banker, and simply having a deep insight into the real estate market here in the Niagara region. In today's episode, we discuss how he's been able to consistently sell homes even in a tough market, the different opportunities available, especially for first-time home buyers, and finally, for those interested in joining the real estate profession, some words of advice and perspective that shaped his journey in real estate. Welcome to the Golden Horseshoe Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Koukun Unosawa. I'm a mortgage broker with the Synergy Mortgage Group. And in this podcast, we chat with real estate professionals who share their local market insights, future outlooks, proven strategies, and practical tips, all here in Ontario's Golden Horseshoe. Hope you enjoy. So Al, when it comes to some of the best opportunities that you're seeing in the Niagara region right now, if someone watching this were, say, a first-time home buyer, what are some of the best things that you're seeing in the market right now?
I think as a first-time home buyer, it's actually a great time to jump in. I mean, there was a lot of opportunities, we'll say 5 years ago, prior to COVID, that people just didn't realize were there. We always were in a market here in Niagara that was so low. People thought the house prices were high, and then COVID came and the prices soared. And now we've seen the prices come down significantly. And I think we are seeing first-time home buyers, locals being able to buy, because what happened during COVID again was a lot of investors came into the market here in Niagara. And so first-time home buyers and buyers in general were just not able to actually get into the market to compete against those who were coming from outside of this area that thought our prices were absolutely, a steal of a deal, which we didn't recognize. And so people missed that opportunity. And now, again, that opportunity has come back. And I think some people are starting to realize that. So I think it's a good time for people to buy locally.
Yeah, no, I definitely remember that was definitely a very active time for investors, right? And as a result, like being a first-time home buyer, needing a financing condition and wanting to sort of do the right things in terms of protecting them as a client, it was very hard, right? Because everything was just flying, multiple offers, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, everything was a clean cash offer, and those who were, again, local buyers didn't get the opportunity to come in and put a condition in the offer, so they just couldn't compete for the most part.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I noticed, especially on Instagram right now, you have a lot of properties that you're listing, but surprisingly, I'm seeing many posts that you've shared of homes that actually have ended up selling, right? Especially in the last couple of weeks here.
Yeah.
What have you found that's been working in terms of getting many of these listings sold? Because I know from talking to many realtors, like it is not the easiest time to sell a property right now. So what are you doing that's, I guess, working?
Yeah. Again, I'm hearing the same thing. I hear that all the time. It's a tough market. I think real estate's a tough business in general. I think I don't want to say there's any luck in it. I'm in a right price point. And I have hard conversations with my clients. I mean, it's not fun conversations, but we have to make price adjustments. The market's changed. I mean, I think people really love real estate and think that it always goes up. These are one of those times that show people that the market does go down, and it's hard for some. Some don't want to make those changes. Some aren't not ready to be in this market because their prices are still in line with 3 years ago. But I spent a couple of weeks, about a month back, going through every listing and realizing, we did everything. We did a lot of marketing, like paid advertising. We did open houses. We had showings. Some of them we had very few showings. And it was just a time where I said, you know what, I got to spend a bit of time over the next 2 weeks and speak with everybody and really reassess the value and make some price changes. And I think for the most part, 90% of the people I was working with made those adjustments, and we got their homes sold, right? It is a very much a market based on price right now. You need to be within the range, even maybe below the range to attract a couple of offers. But you can't be overpricing your house in this market. It's going to sit. And as we all know, it sits long. It just gets lower and lower in value. So that's one of the biggest key things. And again, I have had a lot of listings that were in that right price point, 600 and under seems to be moving fairly well. Homes that are 800-900 plus, they're sitting a little bit longer, right? So I think that's been the biggest part for me to be able to sell a lot of these properties over the last month. is just really being on point with people and being upfront with people when it comes to price. I just listed one a few days ago. We talked about price. The client thought their house might be a little bit higher. I suggested where I feel it should be. We met in the middle, and we've already seen two offers, and we've only been on the market for a week, right?
Oh, wow.
So we're going to present the second offer today. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's really just being honest with your client and not trying to just get a listing, right? You want to sell the properties and not just take on a listing. Because I always say I'd rather be the second man in at the right price than being the first man in at the wrong price, right? And I did lose a couple listings in the last month as well, and it was due to price. I seen them go on the market for 50,000 to 100,000 more than I suggested, and they're sitting there. So I still hope those clients are able to sell their home, and I love if somebody can prove me wrong when it comes to the price. It's happened for sure, but I just think that being upfront with the sellers in this market and telling them the price that's realistic is the most important thing. It's really a market based on price. So
Yeah, it's I think it speaks to your experience because having those tough conversations can be some of the toughest parts about, your industry, even in the mortgage world. It's um, especially if you want to make your clients happy. If you're a bit of a, people pleaser is kind of maybe a negative word, but if you're just someone who loves to take care of people and really create great outcomes, it's sometimes hard to like break the bad news. But sometimes it is almost the most important thing. If you do it up front, you set the expectation, then the clients know what they can expect, and you almost get them to the result they want faster, right?
for sure. And again, even I've been in the business for 19 years. It's still not an easy conversation for me. And there's times where I feel like I procrastinate 2 or 3 days having the conversation to just say, hey guys, like we really need to get to this price.
Mm.
Because it's tough when you go in and you give somebody a cost market analysis on their home and you give them a price and you feel that the price is good and you see that market change over 30 days and it does. And this market's just changed month to month, day to day, right? To have to go back to them and say, hey guys, like we priced it here. It was a good price, but we do have to make an adjustment because we're not seeing the results. So that happens too. I'm not always dead on point with the pricing. I try to. I do a pretty detailed analysis on homes when I do the CMAs for clients. I don't just throw a number at them when I'm at their home. I take all the information. I go back. I look at the comps. I look at how many days on the market the comps are there. And I try to find that right price point so we hit the market properly and attract as many buyers as possible. So.
Very good, very good. I guess uh, if someone were watching this and they're more on the side of being a investor, something unique that I know you're involved in quite a bit is other than sort of the typical sort of investment property, duplex, triplex, which you definitely do, you've shared with me that you've been involved in some more interesting transactions recently, whether it's the sale of a business or whether it's the purchase or sale of a commercial property, right? Like office buildings, commercial, retail, that kind of thing. What's that market like right now?
It's a tougher market, I'd say, on the commercial side. However, I just listed a commercial property about a week ago, and again, we have an offer on the table right now, which I think we're going to finalize today and get it sold, and very close to list price. And it's actually a price that I thought was maybe on a little bit of the stretching side, but we wanted to test that, and we found the right buyer, and we actually have had a few calls directly about the property. Again, very unique buyer to this specific property. Uh, but overall, on the commercial side, I'd say it's a little bit slower. I think investors, there's again, it comes down to there's the old downtown commercial side, and then you see this huge development side happening on the west end of Welland. With these big strip mall plazas coming in with square foot prices of $30 to $40 a square foot versus downtown at $12 a square foot, and yet these places are renting. They're being built and they're being occupied, but they're all being occupied for the most part by big franchises, right? Not the mom and pop shops. But again, I'd say on the commercial side, it's not as strong as we would like it to be, but things are still moving. And again, it really comes down to price again,
Mm.
you know? So
I guess in commercial, it may using the word commercial is also a little bit broad because there is the owner occupied commercial where it's a business who's finding a place for them to simply run their own business, where that's a little bit different than a pure investor who's buying a commercial building, solely as an investment as well? Like when you work with, those two types of commercial clients, what has been sort of the experience like? What has been some of the differences between the two?
Again, I think when it comes to a commercial end user who's really looking for the space to occupy for themselves, I think that's a little bit stronger of a candidate for this market.
Mm,
They can go out, they can find themselves a pretty good deal on a building, and they're going to own or occupy it. For an investor to buy a mixed commercial used building right now in Niagara, I think it's you got to find the tenants to occupy those commercial units, unless you're finding something that's already like a strip mall again, that's already got basically some anchor tenants in there, and the money makes sense. It's really not much different than a commercial investment versus a multifamily investment. I mean, the numbers have to make sense. So as far as an investor goes, they're really just looking for the numbers to make sense. But I
okay.
think the owner occupied commercial is definitely a more moving market right now than
Yeah.
the investment side.
And that mimics what we see in the residential side, right? Because even in the residential side, the owner occupied, especially like you said, the homes in sort of that lower price point where it's just a need. People need to live in a home, and when the time is right, they're much more willing to move forward, despite where interest rates are. As long as they feel secure in their situation, they're willing to move forward. Versus we're seeing, especially in the residential side of investment, the duplex, triplex, that market has really slowed down, right? And there's quite the
For sure.
difference there.
Yeah, no, I've sold a few of the multifamilies over the last month and a half, but they were good deals, and they had to be. Again, it's the whole market in general. It's all about price, regardless of what part you're really in. Um, like the multifamilies that I sold, like I sold a fiveplex and a triplex. We've got a duplex for sale now. I've got the gentleman who just purchased the triplex messaged me yesterday, said, if you come across something with 14 units, we're interested in another one. Again, they're out of town investors coming in, and I think there's that little push in the market where right now I feel like we're at the tail end of the market going down, and we're going to see the turn soon. That's my own opinion. I don't follow everything to kind of just watch what everyone else is saying. I just, based on what I feel out there, what I'm seeing, hearing, I feel like that investor pool is slowly making their way back to the market in Niagara,
Mm,
because they're realizing that the prices have come down to the point where they know there's going to be a turn, right? And I don't know that those homes are going to drop much more in price. They could. I think we've really kind of started to see the bottom on certain price points. And yeah, I think the investors are slowly starting to come back out there, and this is the time for them to come out.
yeah, yeah.
So
No, it'll be interesting. I think right now probably many first-time homebuyers are happy that the investors are not here because it's there's a lot of options available for them, but not as much competition. But the funny thing, like with a few of the clients I have pre-approved, I've noticed the best deals still get like multiple offers right now. It seems crazy, but like even in this market, if like you mentioned, if the property's priced well enough, it attracts the few buyers who are out there, and they seem to sometimes get multiple offers, right? What are you seeing
yeah,
on that side of things?
again, I have a client. We just submitted an offer about a week ago, and we competed, and there was three offers on the price, and it was in the $600,000 range. But we competed with two other offers, and the other offers that got accepted were conditional on a sale, and ours was only conditional on financing and home inspection, which was strange. However, there's, again, coming right back to the whole point is price is so important right now. Like, people are always asking when you list a house, like, hey, are we going to see bidding war? Like, well, most likely not. But if we price your property at the right value, or even below the right value, then yeah, you'll probably see multiple offers. The problem with that is if you price it too low below market value and you end up with multiple offers, we're seeing that the offer that comes in that's the highest is still below what the client's actual expectation was.
Yeah,
And so what happens is the house comes off the market, and then 2 days later goes back on the market at a higher
the
price. And
higher
then people
price.
call me and they say, hey, wasn't that house on the market for like 500 and now it's
Yeah,
six?
yeah.
Because they didn't achieve the price they wanted with the three offers they got.
Mm.
So it's a hard game to play in this market too, when you start undervaluing it too much, because you have to keep into consideration that obviously banks and appraisers have to come in and appraise that, and if they see this really low value and somebody who pays 150,000 higher, right now the banks have to come in and question, are they overpaying for this house,
Mm.
right? So the appraisal has to come in as well.
That's a
So
good point. That's a good point.
yeah.
So I think one takeaway someone can get from this is that even though there's a lot of listings on the market, there's not necessarily a lot of listings that are priced appropriate for the market. So just because the number of homes that are available, not all of them are priced appropriately. And it seems the ones that are priced appropriately are getting the attention. So if you're an active buyer right now, you're probably looking at those homes that are more appropriately priced. It still makes sense to really get your ducks in order and really like get pre-approved, get ready to take action for when that right deal comes along. Because you may face competition, you may face a more active sort of negotiation once you find that right home, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because there's going to be a pool of buyers in that same price point with you that also are going to be watching. What I'm finding is that buyers right now are just watching the MLS, whether it's Realtor.ca or all the other sites that the information is on. They're watching it daily. They watch it more than we watch it half the time. You're out on the road showing houses and you're getting clients texting you saying, "Hey, what about this house?" And you're like, "I haven't seen that house." Where they're like, "Oh, it just came up 2 minutes ago." I'm like, "Okay, I haven't had the chance to pull over and see that yet," because they're watching it so closely. And even the ones that are listed, they're watching, they're waiting for the price reductions, and so some clients will say to you, when you ask them for a price reduction and they haven't had a lot of showings, they'll say, "Well, why would we reduce the price if we haven't seen enough people to get enough feedback?" And I'm saying, well, if nobody's coming and we're doing marketing or we're doing advertising and we're doing open houses and we track our views online, and I track my views on my website, I track my views on my paid advertising, and I can see that, hey, we've seen 10, 15,000 people view this property over the last 2 weeks and only 2 showings from that. And even some of their sites will show you that, hey, 5 people asked for driving directions, meaning that 5 people wanted to get directions to go drive by it and see the area, but they still didn't book a showing. So then they're saying, well, why would we drop the price? I'm saying, because you have to drop the price because nobody's actually showing up to the door and we're doing everything to get them through the door. And then they're always concerned that if you drop the price, that somebody's going to come and negotiate you even lower than that. And my answer to that is, yes, that's possible. However, the seller's always in control of what they accept. So even if you drop the price by 25,000 and then somebody comes in and sees your house and gives you an offer for 25,000 less than that, all that really tells the seller is that, hey, you're now finally in the right price point, that somebody was willing to submit an offer to you. It doesn't mean you have to take it. It just means that you finally have got yourself to a point in the price that somebody's been willing to come through the house and see it and then throw an offer at you, right? Now, and then you start to negotiate. But people's concern is always, if I drop it, they're going to come in and negotiate even lower. Of course, that's a possibility. But if they offer, that means that you are finally hitting the right price point that somebody's willing to offer, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of human psychology in there as well. Like a buyer is much more willing to place an offer on the home when they know there's another offer already on it, right? They almost feel like, oh, this is a home that is worth the money that it's listed for because someone else is willing to offer. So it kind of, it creates a bit of momentum, right?
Yeah, it creates value all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah, when someone wants something, someone else wants something, right? It's like when a listing, sometimes you talk to a client, you say, listen, let's just pull the listing off the market for a week. Let's take a break. Let's reassess the price, and then we'll go back on the market and we'll do a couple changes in the house. And as soon as you pull it off the market, all of a sudden you get 4 or 5 phone calls from people saying, hey, that house you had listed, like, what's going on with it? And you're like, what do you mean what's going on with it? Like, oh, I've been watching it. And are you guys putting it back on the market? It's like people are watching. And as soon as you take it off and they can't have it anymore, then they make the phone call versus they could have made the phone call, right? And asked maybe how motivated the seller might be and throw an offer in, but they wait. And then when it comes off the market, then they're like, oh, I was really interested in that house. I'm like, but I didn't know you were interested. I didn't know that you were the viewer online that looked at it 30 times, right? So, but that always happens. So it's like it creates value, and all of a sudden when it disappears out of reach, then somebody's like wants to reach for it. It's a strange thing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, you mentioned you've sold a few properties recently. What have all of those gone fairly smoothly, or any recent stories of I guess where things didn't go as planned, or maybe it came close to not going as planned but still sort of came through? What's it been like recently?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of them require work. They have you get an offer and it's great, but then you realize as a realtor that an offer is just an offer, and then you get it accepted, and you still have to realize that, hey, we're still in a conditional period, right? And then you get to that conditional period and you got to go through the home inspections and things come up. And now you have to go back to the table with the seller and say, hey, like this has to be rectified, or we have to adjust the price accordingly. And we've had that on a few properties in the last month, where we've had to make adjustments on the purchase price for the buyers in order to get the deal done. And it's happened on a good majority of them because we're in that market, right? Again, 3 years ago in that position, you could have bought a house, even had a home inspection clause, found something, and then went back to the buyer and said, listen, we want $5,000 reduction to change this. And the seller would have most likely said, no, I have 8 other offers as backups ready to go. So buyers know that it's a buyer's market. They know they have the power to renegotiate. Um, so yeah, there's no easy transaction in real estate till the moment it closes, till the day the lawyer calls you and says everything's closed. And even then, you're still, you want to make sure that the buyer and the seller are happy. So you're representing usually one of those sides, and if it's your buyer, you want to make sure they're happy. They got into the house, everything is as it was. That's why we do the walkthroughs. So yeah, it's not they're all tough. There's no question. Every transaction right now is not done very simple, right? It's not just a quick, easy, here's an offer, it's cash, there's no conditions. We'll close in a week. Here's a big deposit. Everything comes back to what we were 5 years ago. Smaller deposits are being provided. The closings are 60 days out. You got to hope that nothing changes in the midst of that somebody feels that, something's changed in their circumstances with the world, with tariffs, and right, that they're like, man, I lost my job. And then you get into that situation. Right. So yeah, no, I think every deal is a lot of work.
And that would be very tough if you have a long closing and if the buyer lost their job. And yeah, it's now so far, at least from the lenders I've worked with, I've honestly found it funny how lax they've been recently, where they're not calling the employer as much. Like they may call during the approval period, but they're not doing those extra checks. But I have heard stories in the past where like a couple of days before closing, the lender always has the right to call the employer to check, hey, is this guy still employed, right?
Yeah.
And those are the worst emails whenever I see from my clients. It's like, hey, I got this great job offer, but I have to accept it before closing. Is this going to screw up our approval?
Yeah.
And
yeah, no, it's like I said, every deal is a grind. It's tough, and I wouldn't say it's much. I prefer this market in a general sense. I prefer a market that takes a little bit of time to find the right buyer. I didn't love the COVID market. Everybody thinks as realtors that we just loved COVID and we were making so much money and everything was selling in a day. Yeah, does it feel great to not, what I mean, to put a house up and sell it? But there was no real, I'd say there's no real professionalism in just throwing a house up on the market and just picking a price and then somebody coming in and offering you 200,000 more and you didn't actually value the house properly because you didn't know, you just threw a number. This market forces you to do the work, look for the right price, get it on the market, and then truly advertise it, like market it, spend some money, work with your client, get a good relationship with your client. And they also know that you worked hard for them. Right. And that feels better than, you list a house and 24 hours later, it's sold for 150,000 more. You barely got to know the person you're working with. They barely know you.
yeah.
Right. It's so I do prefer a little bit tougher market.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense because in a tougher market, you're forced to really do your best, right? To pull everything out of yourself to like create the best result for your clients and really figure out like, how do I solve this problem of either helping them buy a home or sell their home, and really like, yeah, like it separates the people who have expertise, the people who even just are willing to do the extra work, right? For their
sure. Well, it forces those hard conversations that we had earlier. You don't have hard conversations in an amazing market like COVID. There's no hard conversation.
Yeah.
Like here's 8 offers. They're all over asking price. These 4 are cash. Which one do you want to take the best? Like, let's look at it. Who left the fridge and stove out that you really wanted? Like how, like there's no tough conversation. It's just, hey guys, like, you just won the lottery. Here's an extra 150,000 on your house.
Yeah.
Whereas this market forces you to learn your skills and be a professional and have those hard conversations, right? It makes you learn how to price homes properly and do the CMAs. And, it creates a little bit, it can really make you stand out, right? As a professional.
No, makes sense. Yeah. So Al, I know you mentioned already that you've been a realtor now for the last 19 years. You also have an interesting perspective because you're both the both an active real estate agent, but you're also the broker owner of Coldwell Banker Advantage here in Welland. So you get a very deep insight into seeing how so many other realtors in this local market are sort of how they're doing and the different struggles they have in the various stages of their career, especially those starting out right now. This is probably a very challenging time to get started. Um, if sort of a realtor is watching this who's just got into the industry or they're having a bit of trouble gaining momentum right now, I guess what advice would you give them? And maybe you can share a little bit about how you started as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a new agent, like again, I've been at it. It's my 19th year, and people might say you're doing really well. Wow, like it's great. And they just see that part, like anything in life. They see the successes and the, and the long hard work, but they don't see the work behind it. They don't see my first 3 years of real estate where I barely made anything and just kept pushing through.
Mm,
So what I would say to new realtors is again, like you got to put your head down. You have to do the work. There's no easy way in real estate unless you're born into it. And even that, I don't think it's easy.
mm,
It's a really tough job. It requires a lot. It you know you're basically on your own for the most part. Now you have the support of your broker and your broker manager and your partnerships with other realtors, but you are alone. Like you're out there. You're trying to make it work. So I would say first, yeah, put your head down, focus on what you need to do. Another thing I think a lot of people do is they really focus on social media and watching what everyone else is doing. And as beneficial as that could be, it's very detrimental to a lot of people because when people see other people really doing well, they kind of beat themselves up a little bit, right? And they think, why am I not doing well? And so I would say to people, try not to focus on what everyone else is doing. Really just try to tunnel vision yourself into where you want, you know, create goals, figure out ways to achieve those goals. And again, just like if you do watch too much of what's going on, like social media is it'll just take you down a rabbit hole of, wasting hours and hours in a day watching what everyone's doing, and so it basically discourages you from, getting off your couch sometimes. Right. And this is a business where I think social media is very important for certain parts of it. But I think you still, as my old broker used to tell me, you got to be belly to belly with people. You have to be in front of people. You have to be out. You have to network. And you have to do things in a way that's real and authentic to who you are. I've heard stories of people who join, churches because they want to pull clients from the church, but they don't actually want to be at church, or they don't, so don't join something for the simple fact that you want to, try to pick up a client from it. Be part of things that you actually enjoy and do and want to be part of. So if you enjoy playing tennis, like go join a tennis club and you get to do something you love, and you also get to network with people and get to know people. But you have to get out of your house, right? Like being on the couch, sending out texts via social media platforms, it can work to a certain extent, but you have to be in front of people. People need to know who you are. You got to get that networking out. And again, tunnel vision, I think, is a very good way to be. And it really comes down to just putting in the work. There's a lot of people that when I started 19 years ago, I didn't have the same resources. And I know I'm aging myself a little bit. But like now with AI and the internet and all the information you can find, like there is so many things that you can learn about our industry. And that was one thing that I did. I learned about the industry. I learned about housing. I wanted to understand the mechanics of housing, structures. I watched several videos on how homes are built. My brother-in-law also is a home builder, but I just watched videos after videos of exactly, different styles of building, right? Different types of structures. Even some of the things we took in our courses through AREA, I went and did the research on that, so I understood homes because we're selling homes, right? I know we all want to say we're selling lifestyles, and that's great, but we're actually selling a product, and it's a house, and we need to be informed on that house, and we need to understand furnaces and, hot water on demand systems and types of, supports in the home, like floor joists versus wood eyes. It's those kind of things that I think people could really, if they have nothing to do, research, right? Be at the top of your industry through knowledge, right? Like I read a lot of books on entrepreneurs, and that's one of the biggest things they always say is it's the knowledge part of your industry that you need to know. You need to understand what you're selling, right? We're not here to just write up paperwork. you have to understand your product. So
No,
that'd be something
absolutely.
I would say for sure.
Absolutely. Like you shared there, so the first 3 years you were in the business were not the easiest time in terms of making a solid living from this business. What was the moment like that itself is a tough, like I'm not sure there's many people who can stick to something for 3 years if they're not seeing some bigger results. How did you stick through that? And was there a turning point where you were like, okay, I think I can really do this as my career?
Yeah. So the first, I left a pretty good job doing sales in a mining industry. It was a good paying job. And I basically walked away from it to come into real estate. So I really wanted to be in real estate. And my first year in real estate was horrible. My second year in real estate was a little less horrible, but still horrible. And my third was not much better.
Okay.
But I kept pushing through, and I spent a lot of time at our local kiosk. I'd spend 8 hours a day standing at the Seaway Mall kiosk talking to strangers. And the moment that I felt that I knew, because I did a couple deals, but it was typically like a family member. My aunt was one of my first clients. But the moment that I really knew is when I met a client, excuse me, listed their home, sold their home, and then, I thought, okay, this is great. I was able to get their house in the market, price it properly, and then find a buyer for it, and then do the representation on the buyer as well at the time,
Okay.
did multiple representation. And then I got a call one day, and it was a referral from that seller. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, they actually liked me. They actually thought, whether they liked me or not, they thought I did my job well. Said they were able to refer me. And I think that's a huge, huge part of this business is the referrals. That's why you always see everyone's emails that say, we thank you for your referrals. And like a referral part of this business is so big. I mean, it's so when I knew that I can meet a stranger, come into their home, which is not always easy as a new agent. It's very nerve wracking when you walk into someone else's home and they're showing you around, and you're here to criticize their home and tell them what you think is good and what is bad about it and what you think they could sell for it and hope that you don't offend them. So when he was able to do that, sell it, represent the buyer, and then get a referral out of that, and then get the referral and then sell that home and then continue that referral basis, that part was a very big factor. And it was what told me that, yes, I could do this. And I'll be very honest. There are, I'm trying to think of the term one of my agents told me. I can't remember right now, and I'll tell you after maybe if I remember. But there are still moments in anybody's career, and I talk to agents who've been in the business for 25 years, 30 years, myself 19, where you still question it because the market is constantly an up and down.
Yeah.
And you'll see agents who have these little peaks where it's like, oh my God, all you see is these agents' names. They're doing well, and then all of a sudden they go quiet, and you don't hear them for a little while. And that agent, like myself, you have a busy time, and then you go slow a little bit, and you're kind of like, am I getting too old for this business? Am I not? And you question yourself, and you have to step back and say, no, back to the basics, right? You got to go back to the basics. Be like, what am I doing? You know, am I not having those hard conversations, and that's why I'm not selling these things? Should I look back and say, what can I do to change? Do I got to do a little bit different marketing? Do I got to change my photography? Right? I see a lot of listings that are still on MLS right now. If you were to look, that have pictures with snow in them, and I say, how the heck can you have a listing in the middle of summer and your photo that you're showing on MLS has snow in it?
Yeah.
Like you have to change those things. So as an agent, you have to like look at everything you're doing and say, hey, I got to make this change because anybody who's looking at this listing on MLS right now and sees snow is going to automatically just say, hey, this has been on the market for a year,
Hmm.
right? So it's a constant. It's a constant battle. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question that may be a little bit controversial. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. Do you feel that every agent has the ability to become a high performing agent? Or on some level, is there something innate in the people who end up doing well versus those who kind of struggle and they never get much traction even after some time?
It is a tough question. And again, as a broker, we've got 34 agents. I think we have one of the greatest teams in Niagara, personally. However, yeah, I've asked that question as well because you kind of wonder, like, are some of the people built for this business? I think anybody could be successful. I think we get in our own way. I think that's the biggest thing. As people, we get in our own way. Again, reading books of entrepreneurs that, if you were to listen to their lives and what they were living in their 20s and 30s with no sales experience and no business experience, that just all of a sudden something clicks, they find something they love, they run after it, they forget about the failures or worrying about the failures. So yeah, I think everybody could be successful. I think we just get in our own way sometimes. I think sometimes pride gets in our way. I think sometimes the fear of failing gets in people's way. So we tend to not do certain things we should do. You know, we sometimes I see it where, you know, agents may, well, another part of it is preparation. I mean, as agents, you can't, I say this all the time, but you can't go into a listing not prepared. Like you're going into a listing presentation, it's for you to not go prepared, and they might have another agent coming in after you who is prepared. You've just reduced your odds, you know, almost 100%, right? So preparation is huge. But no, to answer your question, I do believe that everyone can be trained to be a really successful realtor or in any profession they're in. But it takes work. It takes, I think it takes dedication in a lot of aspects of your life. I think, um, physicality wise, that, you know, like something that's helped my overall part of my life is getting back to the gym 8 years ago and just really, you know, I go to the gym every day for an hour, hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
You know, it helps me to balance my day, get my thoughts together, listen to music. It makes me feel a little bit better about myself, you know. So people know those feelings. Like we all go through those feelings where you go into a meeting and you're not at your best, you don't feel the most comfortable. And then we have those other moments where the day is perfect, where it's like you get into the car, the sun is shining, the temperature's perfect, the song kicks on, you're on your way to a listing appointment, you go into the listing appointment and you have a great, you know, results from the listing appointment. You get the listing and you leave that, and it's like this amazing feeling. And, you know, you have to look back and say, what did I do that day was so perfect? Because not every day is going to be sunshine. You're going to have the rainy days, but you still got to go in perfect. Um, but what did you do to get there? And you probably did some extra stuff. You probably went to bed a little earlier that night, and you didn't go out and have a few beers with your friends because you knew you had a listing appointment in the morning, right? So you sacrificed other things. You didn't watch a movie. You sat at your desk. You prepared for the listing, you know, and you got yourself ready. You talk to yourself. I always say I always talk to myself when I drive. Most people think I'm probably on the phone. I'm usually talking to myself. I'm usually preparing myself for certain things. You know, so it's preparation. But yeah, I think anybody could be good at sales if you learn your skill, your art, the product, you know. So what any thoughts from you on that?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a few things there that I really agree with, right? Even something as simple as exercising. Like sometimes in in sort of our businesses, being self-employed, having to, you know, find business, having to like find the clients to work with, otherwise you don't get paid, right? Um, it can really affect your confidence at times. Because if you're not constantly doing well, you start to question, hey, am I supposed to even be in this business? Am I cut out for this, right? But if you have something like exercise or other areas in life that they're pillars that you can continue to do, you can create results regardless of how your business may be doing, regardless of how many rejections you may face at work. Hey, I can show up at the gym and at the end of the workout, I feel great. My body's improving. I like that can sometimes bring some confidence into your life. I think the more like it's interesting to study where if you tell someone they have 100% guarantee like success rate of getting a listing before they go into the appointment. Say you knew, say you told them, hey, I had a conversation with that person already. They've told me they've already decided to go with you, so 100% you got this. But you know, make sure you prepare, go through the motions, but 100% you got this. The confidence that person has going into that meeting, their tone is going to be different, their demeanor is going to be different. They're going to expect to get the listing. Right? Versus if someone has, say, faced 5 rejections in a row where every time they got beat by someone else and they just feel like, I don't know why people are not accepting me, then their tone, then their demeanor, they almost go into it expecting to be rejected. Almost they would like protect themselves, right? And that compounds over time, right? So yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and it does compound, and there's no question we all go through that, and we still go through it in a cycle of our business. But if you're not asking the questions as to what you did wrong, if you're not self-reflecting, and I always say you have to look in the mirror once in a while. You know, you can point fingers all you want, and you can say that I lost it because of this or I lost it because of that. You know, sometimes you have to look in the mirror and say, what did I do that, you know, Was I confident going in there? Did I have the answers that they needed? Or if I didn't, did I answer it properly? Did I try to secure the listing? And did I have a good rapport? And did I come off again authentic? Or did I come off fake? Or you know what I mean? Like be real, be knowledgeable, be prepared, and I think you can win a good majority of the listings you go to, right? And I say that as somebody who's been in the business for 19 years versus somebody who's 2 years in. But I went to a listing appointment with one of our agents who asked me to join her several months back. And she says, I'm meeting somebody that I've never met before. Do you think you could just come meet me at the property and help me through it? And I went with the agent. We chatted. I talked with the seller. The seller had, some questions saying, hey, like, I'm not sure. They're kind of new in the business. And I said, that's a great thing. It's not always a bad thing if they're a brand new agent. That means they have all the time in the world for them, right? They're going to be dedicated to just your property. And the agent did get the listing. They sold the listing,
Awesome.
right? And that helped boost the confidence. And I was able to help that agent with just answering a couple of questions on site because, yeah, sometimes it's very overwhelming. But again, that's where a little bit of preparation can help, right? Like know some of the questions they're going to ask you because for the most part, right, it's the same questions that are being asked from all the sellers.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for me? How are you going to market my property? Why do you feel the price is here? Like, what should I do to help stage the house? Is there anything else I can do to help make the house more appealing, right? Like those questions are all going to come up. And what have you done? What is your sales history, right? Like just know those answers. Like be ready for the same questions that are going to come to you over and over, right? So,
I mean, it's really cool you shared that story there of, as a broker going with one of the agents, helping her to land that listing. I think something that I've really valued over the years has been even the mentors in my life, right? People who are a little bit further ahead, took the time to show me the ropes, help me sort of get a start, right? I still had to earn it. I still had to find the business. I still had to do, all the hard work in a way, but they were willing to point me in the right direction and like speed up that learning curve in a way.
Yeah.
Right. So in your life, have you had any mentors or people who really sort of helped you sort of along the way?
Yeah, I definitely have. Some know who they are, and there was one that I spoke with a few weeks back that had no idea that he was one of my mentors. And I just happened to run into the person at a house I was showing. He was showing. We ended up competing in offers, and he had no idea that he was one of my mentors, but he was over the years, just through the ease of conversation we had, and always being able to just answer a question or kind of like through the negotiation process that I've done with this agent several times over deals, that I was able to pick up certain things and how he communicated, and I mentioned to him in that conversation afterwards, I sent him a quick text and said, hey, you have no idea that you've actually been like a good mentor of mine. And he's like, really? No idea. You know what I mean? And he was kind of shocked, but at the same token, I think it was cool because I never went to him and with the idea to tell somebody that they were my mentor. I don't know if anybody does. I think people just learn from people and they become kind of like a silent mentor and they don't know. And that's a super important thing that you say because you do have to surround yourself with people. And again, comes back to that pride thing that many people have, that they don't want to pretend that they don't know, or they don't want people to think they don't know. So they kind of try to pretend that they know. So it's good to surround yourself with people who are maybe ahead of you in a sense of the time in the business, that they can really speed that up, right? They can show you things that maybe will help you in your next listing presentation, right? Come with you. And, so yeah, and mentors are huge. And I mean, again, they don't always know that they are your mentors. You just look up to them silently and you follow some of the things they do, right?
Well, let me ask this question another way. If a newer agent was watching this and, it can be about you, but doesn't have to be specific about you. If they are looking to have a mentor in their life and really, like usually most mentors like yourself are busy because you're actively doing the thing that you're good at. That's where you have the ability to give relevant advice and really help point them in the right direction. But time is always something that you have a limited amount of, right? You have to, divide that between your family, your business, the brokerage. There's many things taking your time. What qualities would you say you look for when you think about, okay, do I want to invest this amount of time to really help this person move forward? Like, what are the traits or the qualities that you see where it inspires you to be like, okay, I really want to help this person sort of get to the next stage and really like invest into someone?
It's a good question. I never really thought of it that way. I do like helping people as much as, yeah, sometimes it is time consuming. As you said, I have 3 kids, family, the brokerage, real estate, I've got other things going on. And um, so it's time consuming, but I like seeing the successes from, when it comes to our team at Coldwell Banker, I really enjoy seeing the successes. And it's not because we make a small percentage off their deals. It's really to see them succeed. Like I want to see every one of our agents do well to the level they want to be well. Everyone's success level is very different. Um, so no, I couldn't say that I look for something other than maybe the idea that, yeah, they really want it, right? I mean, they're willing to do the grind, they're willing to do the hard work. It's one thing if somebody, asks you a question, you answer the question, and then 2 weeks later they re-ask you the same question because they just didn't, take it in. You know, you have to listen if you're gonna have a mentor and they're gonna teach you something, and you have to take that and you have to like put that in your head and keep it there and learn from that, right? And not continuously just look for somebody to give them the answers, but also look to get the answers, and then maybe call me and say, hey, I was looking into something, this is what I'm thinking, what do you think about this? And we have those conversations once in a while. We chat and bounce ideas off each other, and you're like, oh, you know what, actually I would do it maybe a little this way, but it's a great idea. So yeah, I think somebody who's just willing to put in the work is somebody that I'm also willing to put in the work with, right? So, but yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, no, it, I I- the reason I asked that is like even looking back, right? Like I wonder sometimes how I was so lucky over the years to have like people really, and sometimes it was just a limited amount of time, but it's like to me their impact was profound, right? Like um especially early on there's a person that really gave me a lot of confidence simply because I was at a stage in life I didn't go to university and I was deciding between this path. Should I go into real estate investing, be self-employed, becoming back then that was before I had become a realtor. And this person, he was fairly successful. He just told me, yeah, if you're starting a business, it's up to you, but getting a degree isn't the most important thing. Here are the other things that if you focus on, it'll probably help you get ahead. Learn sales, learn marketing, learn communication, right? And like he didn't take all the time to teach me all of that, but even just that simple conversation just left such an impact. And I'm like, that was really powerful for where I was at that time, because like I was surrounded by this group, right? My parents, the people I'd grown up with, who are all sort of saying the same message of like, this is the path you should follow. This is the only
Yeah.
way to get ahead. And then just to have someone different who I could look up to a little bit further ahead in life, they were kind of doing what I wanted to do. And to have them simply just tell me, no, there's this other path you can go on as well, and you get to decide, right?
Yeah. It's again, I've watched you grow in the business because I remember seeing your name pop up in the industry as you got into real estate, and it was kept popping up and it kept popping up. And that's what you see, right? Especially in our old system where the name used to pop up on the listing all the time.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, there's another, purchase from Coke, another purchase from Coke. And you're like, who is this guy? And then we met several years ago, but um, yeah, I think it's cool to see that, right? And it's nice to have mentors that help you kind of push through that. But you're, again, as you mentioned earlier, like, do people have it naturally? And then can everyone do it? I think everyone can do it. I think some people have it in them a little bit more to really want to push and are just willing to, just go that extra mile all the time and always want to learn. And that's, I think, something that you possess. I mean, it's one of those things where every time I speak to you, you're always thinking of the next thing, right? You're always kind of moving towards something. I feel I'm similar to that. I'm always wanting to like progress, and I don't want to sit still. I don't want to be idle, because I think idle is it gets you hit a plateau, and if you just stay there, then where do you go? From there, you go down, right? So you can't just stay right here because at one point it's going to start to go down. So you're, again, one of these people that just constantly wants to learn, figure out new things, grow, and then you grow to a point where you're just like, okay, well, what do I do next? Right? I've hit this plateau. Now what can I do? Right? So yes, some people are built with that in them to just continuously want to chase things.
Hmm.
And I think it's a great, indicator of whether you'll do well in this business, right? Yeah, I think most people who do well in real estate are not somebody who would potentially really want to stay in a position of a 9 to 5 job, right? I had that job, it was a great job. I knew I didn't want that job. I want to be busy. So I like the chaos of real estate. It's definitely chaos sometimes, but right, you can, work 12-hour days and 14, 15, 16-hour days, right? It's phone rings at 7 a.m., rings at 10 p.m., right? But I enjoy that part, right?
So Al, to kind of wrap this up, we've learned a lot about you here in your 19 years. You're now a successful realtor. You run a real estate brokerage. What's next for you? What excites you? Like, what are you looking forward to over the next couple of years?
Well, I mean, again, 19 years sounds like such a long time, and I'm only 46, so realistically, I started fairly young.
Hmm.
So what's next for me? I'm not sure. I'm going to be in real estate for as long as I can ever be in real estate. I think growing our team, making sure our team is ahead of the game, is probably one of my bigger goals. I want to see everyone in our team succeed. You know what I mean? And yeah, will we grow a little bit more? For sure. I've never been the person who wants to have the biggest real estate brokerage. I do want to have the best real estate brokerage. I think right now we do, as far as when it comes to the group we have. We work well. We're doing well as a company. I think all our agents are doing really well. I see the stuff that comes through. So in a tough market, to see how well and resilient we are as a brokerage, I think is awesome. So I want to keep on that path. Now, the world is changing all the time. The technology is changing for real estate, the AI coming in. So getting on top of that is something definitely it's important to me, as far as the brokerage. And I've been looking into certain things. So yeah, and again, I'm one of those people that will always, if you ask the admins in the office, I'm always calling them, shooting them ideas, saying, "Hey, can we look into this? Can we look into this?" Because my mind's always running. And then it's like, okay, this one actually works. Let's stick with this and move in this direction. But yeah, to answer that clearly, it's I don't know. I'm still only 46. There's still lots of time to do a lot of things, right? But I would love to just see our company continue to grow in a very, you know, authentic, organic way, and our agents to do really well and succeed, and for them to learn and be the best that they can be.
Yeah, no, I definitely truly believe that the agents at Coldwell um, are truly lucky to have someone like you as the broker, as someone that they can reach out to. And I think, yeah, it's one of those things I didn't fully understand before getting to know you, like the impact that a broker who truly cares about the agents at the brokers, like what a difference that can make. It's it's hard to quantify. It's hard to sort of write down on a checklist. Here are the three things that'll be better, but it makes such an impact. And definitely, like from speaking to all the agents at Coldwell, like I think they definitely, many of them have expressed that they definitely feel it as well. They truly feel you're someone that they can rely on and they can reach out to, especially when when things are going tough, right?
It's usually when I hear from people when things are, they don't usually call me with all their successes. I can see those, but I get the calls when things are going south and we got to fix it. But I appreciate that. I really do. And I do care about the agents tremendously. I mean, it becomes a family, right? And I think we are that type of brokerage. It's a small knit family brokerage. I spoke to one of our agents yesterday and he said the same thing. He says, we got such a great group of people. And it's one of our senior agents who's been around for a long time prior to myself and said the same thing. So we have a good, group of agents, and we've had other people who've, come to the brokerage with the idea of joining, and we didn't want them to be part of the brokerage because we want to keep it to where we feel that people fit, and it's a very good community. So I do appreciate those comments, and yeah, I'd love to see everybody in our office succeed.
Awesome. This is a great spot to wrap it here. And for anyone that wants to get in touch with you, whether uh, as a client wanting to work with you, or even as a fellow realtor, if they want to pick your brain or um, potentially see about joining the brokerage, we'll leave your contact info in the bottom of the podcast notes so that so that it's available there for them. Awesome.
Okay, that's awesome.
All right. Really
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming on. All the best.
All right. Have a great day.